Previously, we were trying to disconnect all of the clients from the server whenever the server left the lobby, and this was working just fine to disconnect them all. But the problem that we had was the host itself was still able to receive connections from other clients trying to connect to the beacon. And if we look over at the beacon host object, we have a function called unregister. It says called when this class is unregistered by the beacon host. Well, calling that simply did not work, so we're going to have to take a little bit of a different route. So what we're going to do is in our game mode.cpp, where we create our host, like our online beacon host, not our host object, there is a function called unregister host. So what we're going to do is we're going to make this public so we can access it and call unregister host from it. And what that's going to do is allow us to properly unregister our Nazi zombie beacon host object, as well as we can destroy it entirely. So we no longer have to really worry about any sort. So even if we do unregister it, we can still kind of receive connections even though they're not really established. That's what I'm trying to say. So we can go about making this public by copying this little section here, going to our header, we're just going to do a getter function instead. So a online beacon host, it's for declare it, make a public section, call it, make it return a online beacon host, and let's call it get host. And get host is going to return host. Let's feel like at the rate that IntelliSense works in this case for me, I could probably just type it. So we're going to get the host, set that default as a null pointer in the constructor. I'm going to copy all this and move it above the if statement so we can compile. So we now have a function called getHost that returns host. Yes. And we're creating it just like before. And now in our beacon host object, what we want to do is we want to get access to the game mode. So we want to actually include our Nazi Zombie main menu game mode so we can get access to this function. So let's include it in our header, Nazi Zombie beacon client to Nazi Zombie main new game mode.h. What we're going to do is we're going to do it after our for loop. So after all the clients have been disconnected, we're going to do if a Nazi Zombie main menu game mode, GM for game mode, equals get world, get authoritative game mode, and it's a template. So template, we pass in the class that we want. So in our case, it's a Nazi Zombie main menu game mode, like so. So from here, we can do GM, well, if a online beacon host, even though it should be valid regardless, I'm still going to do the check. Host equals GM get host. So from here, we're going to do host. I got to include it. So we're going to include online beacon host.h, just like we did in the CPP right here. We're going to do host, unregister host. You can see it takes an F string for the beacon type. And we set the beacon type up here, beacon type name, to equal the name of our Nazi Zombie beacon client class, essentially. So we're going to do beacon type name, just like so. And once that's done, even though it's unregistered technically and clients can't truly connect per se, we still don't want it to just do anything at all. So we're going to do this. We're going to do host, destroy, beacon, and compile. Well, I want to print out a log first. If all this is good, destroying host beacon. and compile. Should make it so once the host disconnects, nobody else can continue to join them, and it breaks all the connections that have been had with it. There we go. I'll launch 2 clients. A host on this one. This one should be the client. This one's the host. Try to connect, which it does. Valid. All right, so yeah, that is the client. Let's disconnect on the host. Destroying host beacon. Still went through and still disconnected the client. So now on the client, I want to try to reconnect. So the server should be shut down. So when I hit connect, it states nothing. It gives no indication that a client was trying to join, just like so. So it's completely failed. That's what we want. So then when I go to HostGame again, still got it spamming. Shut it down and relaunch, but you should be able to host again. That's an issue that still needs to be fixed. So I'm able to join again and connect back to the host once he starts up another server. So that is good to go. So we can now, even though probably gonna have to tinker around with this later once we get to more in-depth testing, but we're now able to actually disconnect all the clients as intended. Just completely break our host beacon so people can no longer connect to us and all that kind of stuff. So when we do our web API in here, it's probably be somewhere at the start, we're going to kind of make a call to our web API, and that's going to remove our server entry from the database. Be done in this function here. So I'm probably going to end up renaming this or creating another function called like close server. So I think I'm going to actually do that. So I'm going to copy disconnect all clients and paste it down there. Just move it down. But the blueprint callable function that I'm making is going to be void shut down server. I think that'll be a lot neater. And shutdown server is going to simply call disconnect all clients. I want to make a comment up here. So register server from database via web API. And I need to delete where we call disconnect all clients, just so it doesn't really break later, hopefully, and compile. And I'm going to have to restart the engine. So this should make it a good bit cleaner. Actually be a little bit better. I want to cancel this to move the unregistering code up above after we disconnect all clients. So that way it does what it says it does. So it disconnects everybody, then it unregisters / destroys the host beacon. There we go. And we should be good to go. I may end up overriding this unregister function because this is a dedicated function, as you can read here. Called when the class is unregistered by the beacon host, do any unnecessary cleanup or any necessary cleanup. So I think in that function instead, I'm just going to override it and simply loop through and disconnect all the clients in there instead. Just not too fond of the name register, but it would make a little bit more sense that way. So we're not also creating a function that we don't have to when we can just override one that already exists. So that may be done in the future. I'm not quite sure yet, but we're at a very good point. Not exactly sure what we're going to do in the next one. We're probably going to just kick the player back to the main menu once he's disconnected. So I will see you then.